Hey, Peter Stevens here. This week, I attended SwissICT's Agile Breakfast in Zurich. Their guests were three senior coaches from AXA here in Switzerland, and they talked about the history of their Agile transformation, where they are and where they're going. And there are a couple of things that I thought were really interesting that I want to share with you. The first is kind of the origins and how that ended up in framework wars, then how they solved the framework wars by not choosing a framework, but then how their solution ended up looking a lot like SAFe anyway. The third element is how they, by choosing a framework, they owned it and what implications that had. And I'd like to share how this aligns with the deeper values of the Agile Manifesto. So let's take a look at it. At the beginning, we're probably looking around 2013, if I remember the number correctly. They had a lot of people at the operational level experimenting with Agile frameworks like Scrum and Kanban. And by about 2016, there was a lot of enthusiasm for agility, but there was also a lot of tension in the community with kind of half of the organization wanting to do less and the other half wanting to do SAFe. And we got the so-called framework wars. When they decided they were going to be systematically agile, they took what some might consider to be a compromise solution, but which I think had very interesting implications long term. They decided to create their own framework. So obviously, they looked at the solutions that are out there. They didn't start learning to cook from basic principles, but they did not adopt anybody's framework. Okay, and what they ended up creating, you can see it up here. They call it the Solution Delivery Framework. And when we look at it more closely, we see it looks a lot like SAFe. Okay, and that was kind of a surprise for me because there's the less approach and there's the SAFe approach. Why does their solution look more like SAFe than like less? And I think I think the key virtue here is that most corporations, they're on an annual planning cycle. They do their budgeting on an annual basis, although the time horizon is often even further than that. Okay, so it might be multiple years, and so you get this very diffuse kind of analog process of budgeting and rebudgeting and reallocating. And what SAFe does is it brings at the operational level basically a quarterly rhythm. Okay, you have the PI planning, which you do once every 10 weeks, but let's just round it up and call it once a quarter. And that already brings a faster cadence into the organization. Okay, and I think the reason SAFe is so popular in the large organizations is because from having an annual budgeting to a quarterly decision-making process, that's an achievable step. When we look at the native Agile frameworks like Scrum, or the frameworks that build on them like LeSS, they have a monthly cadence or even faster. And I think that's just a bridge too far for most organizations when they get started. Now, the interesting thing here is because it's their framework, it's their framework. It's their solution to their problem. And because of that, first of all, they had no mental impediments preventing them from changing it. They owned it. It's theirs. And this was also where we could tell that they were serious about it. When they started doing it, they said all team managers, you can either be a Scrum Master or you can be a product owner, but there are no team leaders anymore. Okay, so they actually eliminated a job description. And later on, as I understand it, they're now in the process of eliminating the job title product manager. Okay, because there's just not enough value add over a product owner. So, by owning it and being committed to it, this enables them to take it forward in a way that's just not the same when you're implementing someone else's ideas. Now, when I look at agility, and I go back to the Agile Manifesto and the people who wrote the Agile Manifesto, what I see there are people who are ultimately solving their own problems. And then they started sharing their solutions with others, and by sharing, they got better. So, I think this is what agility is was really about at the beginning. It was about problem solving. So if I were going to rewrite the manifesto, especially based on what I heard this week, I would say agility is we're looking for better ways of solving our problems, our own problems, by doing it and helping each other to do it. Okay, and with that, I think we've had kind of an interesting Agile Minute. I hope this is useful to you, and if you like it, give me a like, give me a share, feed the algorithm. If you think it's off base, leave a comment or discussion in the comments below, and I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for listening.